Um, our department is only 5 strong. Chris and Chris are both work with us. Then we have Kenny, Ryan, and Ryan and Chris are both tree climbers, as is myself. And then, of course, we'd be lost without Jimmy Dodge, who is oversees everything that we do. The reason we're here today is to plant a bare-rooted tree. Most trees come to your yard. If you order a tree from a nursery, they come with the big ball burlap cage. The ball and the burlap wraps around all the earth, and then it's got that steel cage around it so that all the roots and all the soil stay together, compact. But as anyone can tell you, if you've ever tried to move something like that, it's pretty heavy. Also, in this town, we have this small little plot of land in front of our houses. Granite curb is next to the street, and sidewalk is on the other side, and all that leaves us, in some instances, is about 12 inches of space. How do you get a big tree like that into that small space? The only way to do it is to order bare-rooted trees. Bare-rooted trees, there are certain different distributors throughout the country, and Mr. Dodge usually deals with a company who brings them from St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and some companies bring them from upstate New York. They all come to us on a tractor trailer that's refrigerated under 40 degrees. That way the tree stays dormant and doesn't want to go into leaf until I get them off the tractor trailer with the help of the guys, and we get them into a trench down at the chapel where they've been sitting for now 4 days. I've been watering them in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening to keep them hydrated. Today, we're going to be planting a red oak tree, Quercus rubra, which is the Latin name. None of you need to know that, but if you ever try to take the ISA exam for arborists, you'll find out it's a necessity and it's very difficult to memorize them all. Most of the oak trees that you can see around the town are very, very big. For the children, come and, if you want to come on over here and feel the bark, they don't feel, go ahead, they don't feel like a maple tree. They're nice and smooth, all right? But the oak tree is a very, very strong tree. The only problem was we all learned on the nor'easter that even the oak tree can break because it held its leaves, and when the snow landed on those leaders, the leaders all broke into the streets and into our backyards. All right? I cheated a little yesterday. I got here with a machine and I started my hole. With the help of Chris and Chris, I need a little bit of help.
What do you need?
Digging out this hole. This is Chris Hawkins and this is Chris Patty.
What do you need, kid?
All right, we're gonna start digging out the pit deeper. We picked an oak, which has a tremendously deep root system, which is why, in my opinion, they rarely rip out of the ground, okay? Very deep. The way the guys are, right now they're just doing it visually to see how deep they have to go. Most of the trees today aren't this, you won't have to go this deep. As a matter of fact, the sugars have a deep system of roots, but not as deep as this, okay? The red maple tree like behind you is a very shallow rooted tree. And I'm only saying that because of what I have in the trench back at the chapel. They're all very shallow rooted. Before I uncut all the twine that's holding those branches in place, can the kids tell me why all those branches are all wrapped up like that? Does anyone have an idea? It's to protect them. A bunch of people back at the nursery went and dug this out of the ground. and put it into a refrigerator. And then they threw it on a tractor trailer. The only way to protect those branches from breaking when they're riding those hundreds of miles to get to Arlington is by tying up all the branches so they won't snap when they hit other trees in the truck, okay? And that's the way most trees get transported. When you buy it at the nursery, you'll find that they're all tied up like this. It's just a safety thing.
Look at how deep that is.
All right, let me bring it on over here.
That ain't too bad.
Right now, what the guys are doing is they're using the handle of a shovel
You know what we'll do,
to
Chris?
try to
We'll
find
widen
our
it
depth.
in here.
The depth so that when we put it in the ground, I don't go any higher, or pardon me, deeper than right about here, okay? Chris is in the way, but right about here. The reason is, whenever a tree gets planted too high or too low, the tree tends to fail, meaning it won't make it. If you folks have been to a big mall, a big parking lot in the mall, and you notice that there's mounds of bark mulch up onto and straight up the tree trunk. Has anyone noticed that?
Yes.
All right, that's a big no-no. When you suffocate a tree trunk, you're just sending it into decline. That's a no-no. You always have to plant your tree trunk to the surface of the ground right to here, okay? And if you don't know where that is, then you're gonna do what we do today. We're gonna use the handle of a broomstick, the handle of the shovel we're digging with, and we line it up with the level of the ground.
Like this. Give it one of these. Make sure it's not too deep.
And it has to go
That's
deep.
get down. That's gotta get down just a little bit more. So none of this is exposed. That's all. So
Now,
we'll dig it a little deeper.
in some circumstances, people would say, well, I'm done digging. I don't want to dig any deeper. Let's snip the roots.
Oh.
Don't do that. Work harder.
Why? That's what we always do.
Don't listen to him. Yes.
I'm just kidding. We don't do that.
It's run into hard, very, very hard patches. Can you pour soil up?
We don't do that. We don't do that. We pull out a Maddox or a grub axe and we dig deeper. Okay? If you come to a point today where you're digging and you're finding ledge, it's probably about time you look for another spot to dig. Alrighty? Here's another thing. When you're digging these street trees, something that we always come in contact with is old growth roots that are underneath the ground. All right? They're gonna be there. It's because we are a tree city, and because of that, as many trees as we're planting, we're also taking down trees from either storms or storm damage, high winds, snow load, plows,
It's gotta go down. It's not deep.
and of course the nor'easter. We lost a lot of trees on the nor'easter and the hurricane. Many of you probably saw us out working in the middle of the night and keeping you up with the sound of our chippers going. But for that reason, the roots are gonna be under the ground. All right. So you're gonna need either an axe or a grub axe. Does everyone know what a grub axe is or an axe? Not a grub axe. We don't have one with us today.
What is that?
It's
Is that a root?
just like a pickaxe. One end is a pickaxe and the other end is a flat cutting end, and it allows you to cut through the roots. Usually has a very sharp end, but don't kid yourself. If you come into roots, you're in for some work. All right? How we doing, guys?
You know, there's
some of
something
that
bizarre in
landscape
here.
top under there or
It's
something.
like a top under here.
You know that root?
When you come into something like this,
It's gonna come up.
Usually, if you're gonna be digging out in front of your house, I think I noticed that there were dig-safe markings where there's gonna be a tree today. Wherever there was a tree yesterday when I was digging, there were gas line markouts and water markouts. And they were called. So right now, we just found weed block underneath the ground, 18 inches down, which you never know was there. So we just found out the hard way. Once they move it, we'll plant the tree. Christopher, are we all set?
Yeah, we got a hole.
All right.
I'm pretty sure that's a hole. We're gonna put the tree in the hole.
Can I
Yeah, give it a
set
shot.
for depth?
Give it a shot.
All right. Here's another thing. Some of the trees you're gonna plant, you're gonna be sitting in your living room and looking at those trees. You're gonna wanna have the right facing. That means when it's planted in front of your house, you wanna see the side of the tree that looks the prettiest. And that way you're gonna face that towards your window. Or you might face it towards your neighbor's window and have that prettiest facing. This is a pin oak, like what I like to call a pin oak, but it's a red oak. And that is a beautiful structured tree. That's in beautiful shape.
Latin. Alright. Anybody wanna
Let me have a handle. Right now, again, I'm checking for depth, okay? A little lower on that side.
that side of it?
I know I'm being pretty precise, but we have to because we want this tree to make it. There is no real irrigation over here, so the way this tree is going to get water is from the moist mornings and whatever rain we get this summer.
You ready?
The soil here, even though we're going through a bit of a drought up until tomorrow, if you look at that soil, it's gravelly, but it's also got moisture in it, okay? When I was planting a tree in my yard this week, there was no moisture in my soil. So I added my own soil to the hole, okay? Something that you folks can do if you come across the problem, okay? Some people have compost piles in their yard, maybe? Some, and you can't only put brand new soil into the hole because this tree has to get used to the area that it's in. So you can't totally supplement the type of soil, good soil with what's already here, but you want to give it a fighting chance. And composted material, nice soil, will give this a fighting chance. Now, right now, I'm going to move the tree roots around so that I get the air pockets out of the tree. It looks like I'm being a little rough to the tree, but it can handle it. Now I'm standing and doing sort of a step dance all around the tree so that the tree will be packed in there really nice and tight. Want to use a iron rake now, Christopher? Now this is a totally hands-on thing we're doing, all right? Totally hands-on. And I always get down into the project. Now at a later time, I'm going to personally bring back some more loam and put a saucer around this tree. The one thing that we're not going to add to this hole is the old grass, okay? Because grass rots, and anything that rots will affect the tree roots down under the ground. Some people would say, oh, the hole's down there, I haven't put the tree in, let's lose the grass down at the bottom. It's not really recommended. Don't throw the grass back into the hole, all right?
What about putting the sod upside down on top?
That will work fine. That will work fine.
I noticed you're not
And the good thing about that is that sod upside down will hold in the moisture when it rains.
Speaking of water, I noticed you're not putting water in your plant. I think I do that. Is that bad? You want to do dry?
Well, if
gonna
I
rain.
had a watering truck with me,
Oh, I just wanted.
I would.
Well, you know what it is? We know tonight into tomorrow
No,
it's
no,
gonna
I
be a
just
good
was
stroke
wondering
of
if
rain.
you usually put water.
It wouldn't bother me.
When we go street to street and plant these trees in front of your house, if we meet someone like Lisa, we know that Lisa will come out. She saw us yesterday. She's going to take care of the tree. Otherwise, at everyone's house, I leave a piece of paper. And I say, on the piece of paper it says, hello, this tree was just planted by the Arlington Forestry Division. Could you please do us a favor and give it 2 to 3 gallons of water every single week? Now during July and August, we all know that's not enough water. So I water in trees in the morning and in the evening. Never allowing the hose or the sprinkler to touch the leaves in the heat of July, June, and August. Does anybody know why you don't put the sprinkler right onto the leaves? The sun's rays will cook the leaves. Okay? So whenever you see someone putting a sprinkler at 12 noon on a 92-degree day right on a tree, that isn't a good idea. Okay? The hotter the day and the higher the sun's rays, you'll actually cook the leaves on the tree. So always, right now, if Chris, you could make a circle around there. We'll leave a moat around the tree, and then we're going to put in a stake to support the tree. This is going to be a very pretty windy area during a storm or during just natural winds. So we're going to stake this so that it doesn't move left to right or back and forth. What do you think? Is this pretty interesting? Huh, bud?
You sure you don't want to be home watching cartoons instead?
Oh, that's great.
Now, I don't know how many of you have a sledgehammer or even a heavy axe, but you're going to need it in order to send a 2x3 like this, made of spruce, down into the ground so that it'll stabilize this tree. On your trees, you need to give the tree support. When I plow a street, okay, if I'm plowing, if this were a street, to give you an example, right? If I was plowing in this direction up the street, when the plow grabs the snow, all that weight of all that snow, whether it be slushy or fluffy, is going to slam against this tree, pushing it that way. So that's why I always put my tree stake in the direction that the plow will plow your street. All right? If we lived out in the country, it's a different story. Maybe the back roads don't have the big heavy plows, but we have very big heavy plows in this town, and we push an awful lot of weight off the street and against the street trees. And this is to stabilize the new growth trees. Chris, if I could have your hand help me. Now, if you thought it was difficult to make the hole, watch this, how hard it is to set down the stake. You have to do this in order to give the tree help against the wind, okay? Now, if I could
Will
have...
you do this when you come to my house?
Chris, you have the stapler? I mean the staple? Chris Hawkins, you bring a staple?
No.
Could you please?
All right, I'll get it for you. Hold on, George.
Now, this is arbor wrap. It's fairly expensive. okay? But it's worth it because it's made of a material that sits against the bark during high winds and it won't rub away the skin of the tree. I call it skin just to be so the kids can understand what I'm talking about. But the real word is cambium. The bark is called cambium, and that is how the water flows from the ground straight up the tree trunk to give the leaves their water. Now we can either pull it, support the tree in this direction, or I can take it out of the lower crotches of the tree and support it like this. Now, this is strictly for support. Because we're in a park, this tree is going to get its fair share of abuse. Maybe somebody will fall off their bicycle, somebody will be walking and not see the tree and bump into it. Therefore, I want to keep this fairly well supported. We're using just a common staple, which I've passed out with all the 2x3s that I cut and the arbor wrap. And Chris's techniques for hammering down a staple are second to none.
Thank you. Took me years to perfect that technique, by the way.
Now,
This
the
is the
last
most
thing,
important part.
yeah, putting the label
Putting the label on here.
on the arbor wrap and not leaving it on the tree branch. Everybody knows the reason for
Well,
that?
that way you get to know what it is and it doesn't choke the branch over the course of time. If it ever grew that long and stayed on that long.
And there, ladies and gentlemen, is our new red oak.